Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So yet another Red Eagle Politics double upload day here as we get closer and closer to the election. As I'm recording this video, about 4 days from now, polls will already have closed in the state of Arizona as well as the state of Georgia, the Sun Belt states that we'll be talking about in this video. And Republicans appear to be in very good shape, not just in the early vote as we've seen in Arizona, but also in other metrics that we've seen, the polls in Georgia, the way the undecideds have been breaking nationwide. Democrats are in total panic mode as they should be, and you're looking at these two states here, Arizona and Georgia. They're two very high-profile swing states in the Sun Belt. Technically, you could say the Sun Belt is just the entire South and some of the Southwest, the, places that have decent weather, even in the wintertime. You could throw Nevada in there. We've covered that ad nauseum. This isn't a Nevada video. I'm not going to talk about Florida or North Carolina or Texas because all of those are going to be going in the Republican column. I'm going to be focusing on this video mainly on Arizona and Georgia, which are the two most high-profile states this cycle. In the Sun Belt, they were actually the two most razor-thin states in 2020, and the Republicans are defending two governorships, even though in Arizona they're going to get a massive upgrade in Kari Lake over Doug Ducey, and there are two Senate pickups on the table. And these would guarantee that the Republicans get a majority if they win these two. And in this case, I think they're going to pad the majority because I think that you will see Nevada and Pennsylvania. Those are the two dominoes that'll fall for them to get the majority, obviously, and then Arizona and Georgia will come after that. I still expect those dominoes to fall. Masters and Herschel Walker should win. Walker may even win without a runoff, and this is very true. And the Republicans are in good shape, so we're going to dive into exactly the metrics as to why they're in good shape, but I wanted to first briefly tell you guys about redeaglepolitics.com, which is my website. You guys can become a member for 16 cents a day. That's just $5 a month. I have exclusive videos because not all of my content makes it out to YouTube. Also, you can join the Discord and read the newsletter, read the articles. Just dropped an article about the home stretch of the midterms and what to exactly watch for on Tuesday. So make sure you guys check that out, but also check out the merch store at shop.redeaglepolitics.com. Both of these links will be in the pinned comment as well as the description. We have t-shirts, coffee mugs, posters, hoodies, sweatshirts, etc. All of these designs are there. Why not celebrate the red wave by getting some Red Eagle Politics merch? You guys can do so at the link in the pinned comment down below. But Kari Lake is going up against Katie Hobbs. And this was supposed to be a very razor-thin election, according to a lot of the so-called pundits. Even early on, you had a lot of these people saying that Katie Hobbs would be the favorite, and it's been totally laughable. Katie Hobbs, the creepy cat lady herself, all she's done is not campaign. She's, gone on several high-profile news shows, say that she's not even debating. Kari Lake has been caught on camera basically saying that she does not talk politics with people she disagrees with. All around an awful candidate. Meanwhile, you have Kari Lake on the Republican side. She is a star. She is great on all the issues, which is why a lot of people early on said that she would be unelectable, but they've been proven wrong, and I've been vindicated in real time. I was a day one Kari Lake supporter, and I've been proven vindicated as she is on very good track to defeat Katie Hobbs, but also Kari Lake, she's very charismatic, knows how to navigate the media because she was in the media for quite some time, and truly an outsider and a star candidate that is poised for victory so far. Even in the polls, she's up by 2 in the polls so far. She's led by around a couple points, give or take, for the past month or so. Fox 10, which is actually the news network that she worked for, has Lake up by 3. Remington has her up by 3. Emerson has her up by 3, and at 50%, Emerson underestimated Republicans in the state in 2020. Then you have Marist, which vastly underestimated McSally. Even though their presidential margin wasn't too far off, they're the only pollster that has Katie Hobbs ahead, and even so, it's well within the margin of error. Kari Lake has led the lion's share of the polling. She's even led polls by 11 so far. There have been many polls that have not made it into the RCP aggregate that have Kari Lake ahead. She is pretty much the favorite so far by all metrics, and the fact that she's at 50 in Emerson, she's at 51 in Fox 10, she's nearing 50 in the aggregate, I think she's probably going to win by around 4 to 5 points. I've said that for quite some time now, and I'm sticking to it. It's possible she could win by even more than that, given some of the early vote data we've seen where Democrats are vastly underperforming their expectations. So far, Republicans trail Democrats in the updated early vote. This actually hasn't made it to Target Smart just yet, but in the updated early vote, they trail the Democrats by just 23,000 votes statewide in Arizona, with several 100,000 votes anticipated in Maricopa County alone, which is the population center, Metro Phoenix, on Election Day. That will likely be enough to swamp the Democrats altogether. The margins just are not exactly where they need to be. They lead by just 1.7% percentage-wise in the early vote. Compare that to approximately 3 weeks ago or so, where they led by 8. So that margin has narrowed significantly, and this is huge given the fact that a lot of Democrats vote early. A lot of Republicans, for the past couple cycles, have been voting on Election Day. This all really changed in 2020. Before 2020 didn't used to be that way, but now a lot of Republicans prefer to show up on Election Day. A lot of Democrats prefer to vote early or vote by mail because that's exactly how Biden and the Democrats have told them to do so, and Trump has attacked mail-in voting and tells people to vote in person. So already that kind of plays a role into this as well. Republicans will almost certainly gain as we get closer to the election, and they will gain a lot more on election night, which is absolutely huge. And it's not just for the governorship. We also have a very high-profile Senate race as well, where you have Blake Masters running up against Mark Kelly, another candidate that was deemed unelectable by the media, by the left, by a lot of these neocons, electabros during the primary. Blake Masters now trails Mark Kelly by just 1 percentage point. And this is huge. And we want to talk about undecided voters breaking Republican. That's almost certainly going to help Kari Lake. It will almost certainly help Blake Masters as well. And this is huge given the fact that if you look back to 2020, Mark Kelly was supposed to win by 6. He won by just 2 and change. So take that into consideration as well, because Mark Kelly typically underperforms the polls, and right now he's only up by 1. As an incumbent, he's sitting there below 50%. That's never a good sign. And in terms of the ticket splitting that will happen, will there be Lake Kelly voters? I'm sure there will be some. And I know Arizona is a state that does tend to split tickets. For example, 2018, Doug Ducey won by a lot more than a lot of other statewide Republicans won by, who won by a lot more than some others who actually lost. But you look at Lake and Masters, they both have a very similar coalition. If anything, Masters might actually be doing better among some post-grads and independents. He's polling very well with a lot of post-grads, which is very interesting given the fact that he is a Trump Republican. I think it's maybe because they see themselves in him. I'm not exactly sure why, but that's important to take into consideration. Also, Masters got the endorsement of Mark Victor, who was the Libertarian candidate on the ballot. He dropped out, endorsed Blake Masters. That may help Masters on Election Day as well, even if it's just, 0.5% or 1%, because a lot of these polls did poll Mark Victor as well before he dropped out, and I'm sure he'll get some votes regardless because of early voting. But either way, it's important to take into account Masters as somebody who will likely end up doing fairly well. I think he'll probably end up winning by about around a point or so. It's going to be a razor-thin election. But you look at Mark Kelly, he's somebody that got elected. He promised to be this moderate astronaut. People thought he was cool because he was an astronaut. Now they just see him as some bald guy who votes with Biden 100% of the time. Meanwhile, he's getting hype-mogged by Blake Masters, who's a total Chad, and this is very true. Masters should probably end up winning by, like I said, a point or 2, and then Lake will win by around 3 or 4. Other statewide offices as well are at stake. The Attorney General's race, Abe Hamadeh should win easily. In terms of the Secretary of State race, it's a little bit more interesting, a lot more that we just don't know out of Arizona. But at the end of the day, it's possible Fincham still wins, even though Fontes has been spending quite a bit of money recently. And in terms of some of the House races, Republicans will likely sweep the competitive or toss-up races there as well. So this is true. And like I said in my last video, it's possible polls are vastly underestimating Republicans in the state because they missed a wide portion of the Republican electorate in the primary. even though a lot of those voters, and mainly it was Eastern Maricopa County, and it's weird because pollsters usually miss the non-college educated white voters, but instead they miss some college educated white voters in the primary, but they tended to also be those that have been voting Republican, and even if they may not have voted for somebody like Kari Lake in the primary, a lot of those voters will not vote for Katie Hobbs, so it's possible that Lake does even better than expected, and Hobbs does worse than 47.4%, but we'll see. In terms of Georgia, I want to pivot to Georgia because this is also important. Herschel Walker, we know this. He was supposed to lose because of the scandals. Oh, did they really affect him? Not really. Now he leads in the polls. In fact, one of the reasons why he isn't leading by more is because of a Survey USA poll that was thrown in there. Survey USA has an awful track record. Also, one of the polls that had him leading, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution poll, which was pretty accurate in 2020, has fallen out of the aggregate as well. But either way, you're looking at this. The Emerson poll is a little bit concerning, one could say. It also could be a one-off. They definitely pushed a lot of the undecideds in that given poll. But beyond that point, he has a lead in quite a few of these polls in the state of Georgia. He also did fairly well in the debate compared to what a lot of people anticipated him to do. That definitely helped him. It helped him get Republican voters who are voting Republican elsewhere on their ballot on board with his campaign. That's definitely going to help him out. And you also look at ticket splitting as well. In the state of Georgia, it needs to be analyzed because Georgia's a state that really doesn't split tickets unless Johnny Saxon was hypothetically on the ballot. Raphael Warnock is no Johnny Saxon in terms of his popularity. He's a very divisive figure. And you talk about the governor's race in the state of Georgia, and you could see the fact that Brian Kemp leads in the polls by roughly 8%. I don't think Kemp is going to outrun Herschel Walker by 8%. Some polls like Survey USA have him outrunning him by 13 percentage points. There's absolutely no way that that happens. Even in the Emerson poll, Kemp outruns Walker by 8. All the other statewide Republicans are running in line with Brian Kemp in a lot of the polls that do poll them. And honestly, I can't see that being the case. I think it's probably going to be the case that Kemp outruns him by around, I don't know, let's say 6 points or so, and Kemp might win by like 8. Herschel Walker would win by 2. He would likely avoid a runoff, and this will be the case. And you could look at Georgia on the map. We'll go back to Arizona on the map before the video ends, and you look at the Atlanta suburbs that moved left. Just 1 point of suburban reversion in these major counties for the Senate race would be enough to flip the state back to the Republican column. And this is true. And you could say, well, what about a runoff? What if it does go to a runoff? Because yes, the possibility's there, but I think that Herschel Walker is going to win outright. The scandals have not affected him. They basically have tried to throw everything at him. They've outspent him like 3-1 or something like that. And he still leads the polls. He still leads every poll. And again, you talk about Warnock being an incumbent. You want to go back to the Warnock race here. He's at 46.8% as an incumbent. Never a good sign, especially when a lot of those undecided voters are voting for Brian Kemp, and they also disapprove of Joe Biden. Not the best look for radical liberal Raphael Warnock. But furthermore, looking at the state of Georgia, like I said, even in the runoffs, if the Senate is not on the line, I would anticipate rural voters in Georgia to turn out at higher rates than they did in 2020, mainly given the fact that Herschel Walker represents that Trump base, and meanwhile, he also is somebody that is not as hated as the swamp monster known as Kelly Loeffler, or as uninspiring as somebody like David Perdue, who got the Trump endorsement in his gubernatorial run and couldn't even get 25%. So that's basically the way that it is in the state of Georgia. I anticipate Georgia is going to go red. I also anticipate that Arizona is going to go red. And in terms of Arizona on the map here, it all comes down to Maricopa County. That is the population center. That is where Phoenix is. Kari Lake, I think, will win Maricopa by, a couple dozen thousand votes or so. I think Masters, he could lose Maricopa and still win the state. We'll have to see. But if the early vote data is any indication, and there is high turnout in Maricopa County, it's possible the polls are even going to underestimate Republicans, and you will see Blake Masters win, and you will see Kari Lake win, and it's going to be a great night in Arizona. And in terms of election night, when it does come around, I encourage people to not panic if the early results come in Dem, because the later vote dumps will end up favoring Republicans and this is very true. So that's really the Sun Belt rundown. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle out.